and welcome to my heart-to-heart soulful conversation. I'm Charlotte McGinnis, and as always, I want to thank you all for taking the time to listen to this show either live or at your convenience. And if you feel inspired to do so, please pass it along to your friends. Love to get your feedback, anything you'd like to share. If you want to be on the show, let me know. I'd love to, always looking for great guests, and I feel everybody has a wonderful message to share. And as you know, I've done many, many, many of these. I've actually been interviewing people on radio for many, many years. So this is a real passion of mine. And as I said, everybody's got an awesome life and message and story to share. And I'm here to bring it to each and every one of you all. So today I have an awesome lady. Her name is Susann Swan. And Susann, welcome. It's great to see you and have you on today.
Here.
Yeah. Well, actually, I've got not to go off topic right at the beginning, but there are Swans in my mother's family side. So, do you have any kinfolk in West Virginia?
I do not, because as we talk about namology, I changed my name to have my life
Oh,
work better. So Swan is
ah,
my birth.
okay. Well, there you go. That settles that question. Well, I'm thrilled that you were available to be here today. And boy, there's lots we were talking about. You have done a lot of amazing things. And one thing I do want to give you credit for, and just sort of a message out to anyone who might need to hear this. You said that obviously you got your master's in social work and you worked pretty much in that field while you were writing grants for the county government, and you did that work, which was not necessarily your spiritual passion, but it helps support the habit of your spiritual interest. And I think I want to just say that over the years, not to be as a judgment, but just as an observation, I've seen many people on the journey just want to make a living with their spiritual work, and I'm all for that. But in the meantime, they're like starving artists, and they're frustrated. And I would say that the responsible way was the way you handled it. You did your day job and you pursued your spiritual interest, and you've blessed the world with all your gifts. So that's awesome. So I want to start here. There's so many things that you've done. As I said, you have a master's in social work. You worked in the government. Definitely not your spiritual passion, but what you certainly pursued many different paths. And I'm going to start with I'd like to, a few of these I've never heard of, a few of the things that you shared. And I'd like to just question you on these and have you share with our audience what these are exactly and what you did with this work. And you're a certified Mariel healing practitioner. You say it's a cousin to Reiki. What exactly is it, though? How would you explain this Mariel healing technique?
It was founded by Ethel Lombardi, probably in the 1980s, early to mid 80s. I studied it in 1989, started. And Ethel was a Reiki master. I'm trying to remember accurately now. She may have had a near-death experience, something. She was on the other side for a while and was told she would be bringing an energy to Earth, a divine feminine energy.
Mm.
My understanding of Reiki is it's about putting hands-on or near putting energy into a client. And
Mm-hmm.
in Marielle, sometimes we use our hand to draw energy blocks out, and then we
Mm-hmm.
channel universal energy into the client. Ethel said that she believed Marielle worked faster than Reiki does. And I think it was a little perturbing to the Reiki community. I guess there are very different schools, but the Usui school, the beginning one, I believe to be a Reiki master, you had to pay $10,000 for your training to prove your sincerity and earnestness. And that
Mm-hmm.
was charging several $100s to get these healing classes and certifications. So I used to do it in my government work. I do Marielle. I'd have coworkers that say, I have a headache. I said, oh, do you want me to pull it out? And
Oh, wow.
my cubicle and draw that out. And I didn't feel like I was wasting time on the government's dollar, because I thought if these people have a headache, they're not going to be able to concentrate and work well. And if I take 10 minutes to pull a headache out,
Yeah, that's money well spent, or for the government, right?
productivity. Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. Well, I'm going to have to look a little more into that. I am a Reiki master, have been for close to 30 years, and healing touch. I'm not a healing touch certified practitioner, but I'm certainly very aware of it and the power of all these energy healings, and I have appreciation for all of them. And back to your point about now I didn't pay $10,000, but I do know exactly what you're speaking of, and for me, I guess. Through all of my spiritual interests and endeavors, I certainly appreciate the need for an exchange of energy and fees and so forth. But some of I think it's gotten a little out of hand myself, and I really feel like that we're all healers at heart if we tap into that and to offer it as freely as we possibly can. So
At
just my
least have some exchange that the person can afford, and
right.
so they're valuing your work, even if they're not paying you the full amount.
Right. Well, that reminds me in the old days, the old country doctors, they'd be paid in tomatoes and chickens, right? And eggs. And, that's an exchange and a helpful one. So, I just believe that if we could operate, and I didn't mean to go down this rabbit hole, but if we could operate as a society in that mindset to offer our gifts freely, but for an equitable, reasonable exchange, what that person's able to give, I think that's the highest level of giving and sharing and exchange. But that's just my opinion, and sounds like that's where you work from too. And there is a great reward, I think, when we are able to help people. And I'm sure that your uh, peers in your office were grateful to have you there to pull those headaches out. There are probably quite a few. I'm sure if I worked in a cubicle in an office, I would have had a lot of headaches. Yeah. So you said you actually had a Brazilian healer that you worked with in DC. What kind of healing was that?
Ah, I don't know that he had a certain modality. He was trained as, I believe, a mechanical engineer, but he knew from a very young age he would not remain on that path. So when his engineering work sent him to Japan, he'd also study Zen Buddhism while he was there. Wherever he went, he would do healing studies. So he also studied, I think, with some of the Brazilian shamans.
Oh, wow. So was it an energetic type healing
Yeah,
or
it was.
sound?
He would do hands-on the chakras at the beginning, put different crystals on your body. And then he would sit at the foot of the massage table and hold the energy. He would sit in a meditative position. And so he would not be touching the client, and yet you felt like hands were working on you. It was
Oh,
like
wow.
amazing sometimes.
Oh, that sounds beautiful. So does he still do this work, or have you lost contact with him, or?
I haven't contacted him last year. I didn't get a reply. He lives in Curitiba, Brazil, but he has a daughter that lives in New Jersey with a couple of
Oh,
grandkids. So of course he has to go up and see the grandkids.
yeah.
He comes up here periodically. I don't know if he still works in the DC area. I think things were tumultuous during COVID when people
Yeah.
couldn't gather as freely. So I haven't found out what he's doing.
Yeah. Well, so let me back up a little bit. You obviously, and we're going to keep going with all these awesome things you've studied and taught and shared, but have you always had this interest? I mean, as a young child, what prompted this? What is your spiritual background? What kind of family were you born into? Just curious, always curious where people get this like urge to pursue these things or calling.
Oh, I was Christian Catholic, but my mom didn't want me brought up in the Catholic faith as a young child because she thought there was a lot of fear based stuff put into the children that couldn't even intellectually understand what they were supposed to be so afraid of. So we
Mm.
would not attend church services regularly, Christmas Eve candlelight service. I still do that. I got into Unitarianism in college and then Unity in my early 30s. I always liked psychology. I remember reading psychology books from the library at the age of 12. So I've been at
Mm,
this for a while.
wow.
When I was in my 20s, my mom was coming up to visit me when I was living in Southern Illinois. And she said, oh, for my birthday, could you buy me that Shirley MacLaine book, Out on a Limb?
Yeah,
I said, okay. So I bought it and I started reading. I couldn't put it down. And that got me on my journey. Little sideline, my mother's journey. We had, my cousin was married to this man who was a little unshady, always this side of the law, was not the most sophisticated guy. And my cousin said, she said, oh, Dave only read one book in his life.
oh,
And so one day, my mom was just curious. And well, Dave, what was that book? And he said, oh, Edgar Casey, The Sleeping Prophet.
oh,
My
interesting. I thought
mother,
you were going to say Out on a Limb.
no. So my mother was saying, if that's the only book he's read, maybe I should read it. So she read it. She went to the ARE and,
Mm,
Virginia Beach. She read
yeah.
every Edgar Casey book she could. She was talking reincarnation and woo-woo stuff in the 70s, embarrassing me in front of my friends.
Oh my, well, so there you go. You and I had similar mothers. My mother's moved on from this world, but when we grew up, I grew up in a Methodist Christian church, and but she used to get us those little 8 balls and
Oh, yeah.
Ouija boards, and
Yeah.
she'd go get like these really into astrology. So, I feel that's a blessing. I had a little bit of integration of all of it. Sounds like you did too. Yeah. And so back to Out on a Limb, that book has, changed so many people's lives. That is one of the most powerful books. And really, I don't know if you saw the series. That's you can actually watch it. Everybody, you want to watch it? It's free on YouTube. Out on a Limb, Shirley MacLaine. It's fabulous, and it's a life changer. So that's very cool. Yeah, so moving forward, Enneagram, I am familiar with that. I actually, there was a church in Jupiter, Florida that offered, uh, and it was interesting, and I want to hear your take on this. Uh, it was a Jupiter Christian Church, I think is what it was called. And it was a very informative, well attended seminar. Got a lot out of it. This was 20 some years ago. And yet there are people who say that the Enneagram is voodoo, stay away from it. These churches shouldn't be bringing it in. So I guess my question is twofold. What is Enneagram, and why do you think, well, the answer is a big question, right? But why do you think the churches, some people spiritually are opposed to this or think it's the devil?
I don't have the traditional Christian background to understand how all that fits together, but I do believe that God gives us many ways to understand ourselves, to understand
Mhm.
our gifts, the challenges that we agreed to take on when we came to this silly planet.
Yeah.
The Enneagram is one tool for self-understanding. What I've when I started my studies, the teachers would say, "Oh, don't just read one author. Read Rezone Hudson, read all these people." And I went to seminars from a couple. I really like the work of Eli Jackson Bear on the Enneagram. Instead of 9 types, he has 3 fundamental types with an introverted and extroverted version of them. So you're
Mm,
not memorizing things. And his take is I've seen Enneagram teachers, famous ones, and in their email address, it has their Enneagram number. Like that's
mm.
their identity. And from Eli's teachings, he says that our Enneagram number is what keeps us in the way of getting close to God. It's our obstruction.
Right, right. I
So
did
we
hear.
talked before the interview about teaching Enneagram, and I find it would be a challenge to do so in a secular setting when it is such a spiritual, can be such a spiritual practice and not a team building exercise.
Right, right. Well, it is, I don't, to be honest, I don't remember even my number. I think it was a 6, I think. But I do remember the Myers-Briggs, ENFP. And you too were in Myers-Briggs, or are a student of that and a teacher, facilitator of that. And then something else that you just informed me about today, emergenetics. And so you were, you thinking of creating a program integrating emergenetics, Enneagram, and Myers-Briggs, which well, tell us what emergenetics is first.
My disclaimer is I am not certified in any of these modalities, so I can't tell people what their type is.
Mhm.
But I can share what I've learned. Emergenetics I've found interesting. Myers-Briggs, like between an N or an S, the intuitive or the sensing on how people are logical step by step, or they see the whole picture and they don't necessarily think in a straight line. Emergenetics takes it on a deeper level, perhaps. And instead of a few letters or a number like the Enneagram, it looks like a pie chart. And it has 4 quadrants representing visionary, people that can generate ideas, social, people that need a lot of social interaction, or even if they're introverted, they can read people, kind of sense. Well, these two aren't getting along, where some people don't have that type of perception. The emergenetics also has kind of structural, people that need a structure. They can't go flowing easily, changing like that. And logical, analytical. They have to know the reason why. I remember one of my jobs, the section, the division chief said, let's have a division retreat. And one of the people in the group said, well, why? They had to have a reason. How does this all fit together? So emergenetics will give you a picture. Most people don't have an ideal 90 degrees of each. Sometimes it can look like a peace symbol with these 2 big hunks and these smaller ones.
Yeah.
And it enables us to realize what our gifts are and to then seek to work with people that are stronger in the areas that we are weaker in.
Right.
A whole different way of looking at how you interact with people and why they don't understand you. I wasn't trying to combine the Myers-Briggs type index or Enneagram and emergenetics, but just look at 3 different ways you can look at people. And the more we understand ourselves, the more we can understand others better. I think Helen Palmer, the Enneagram teacher, in one of her videos I was watching, she'd say, how can these people live on the same planet as I do and they see things so differently? And studying things like the Enneagram, you can then see why they do.
Right.
And the biggest gift from the Enneagram to me, I'm embarrassed to say I was in my mid-40s, was that it helped me realize that the way I was seeing a situation was my perception of it and not the absolute reality, absolute truth. It was just my view. So that really
I think we're all kind of guilty of that, and until we know better. And then, but I like what you said prior to this, we were talking about this, I could see if we came together as a group and everybody, was able to find their strengths and their weaknesses, this would bring balance to the goal. We would all be able to bring forth our gifts and appreciate, just everybody has a gift to share. So this is, I guess, how you would define it and make it work. So good for teamwork, I would say, team building. Yeah. So you also have right here, I just read team building on this. The one thing that I had never heard of, and it's something that is what your website, it's www.n2swan, SWAN.com, n2swan.com. And it is nemology or namology. And tell us about that, because I think that's very interesting. What this namology is. I'd never heard of it, as I said. And tell us a little bit about that.
It was founded by Sharon Lynn Wyatt, who unfortunately passed away a couple of years ago. She was a middle school teacher and school administrator also during her career. And one of the school terms was starting. She was doing her seating chart for these middle school kids. And she, oh, I can't put this one next to that one. They're going to be talking all the time. Or this one needs a lot of attention. I better put him in the front, front row. And then it dawned on her that she had not met these children yet, and yet she had some sense of what their personalities were like. So she kept going through the seating chart, writing down her impressions, and then put the impressions in a drawer and opened them up, halfway through the year to see if her impressions were correct, and they were. So she even studied the Bible and biblical names, and in the Bible, sometimes people's names were changed. And she believes that this it's like an ancient science, and she was tapping into it. In namology science, we believe that, or she said, in researching many cultures, that that the incoming soul imprints the name on the person who will be naming him or her.
Oh, interesting.
Whether it's a grandparent or the parents. And she urges people to honor that name that they get. And as namology science practitioners, we can look at a name, and if it's going to have a lot of challenges, we can sometimes tweak the spelling. Because I tweak the spelling on my name, because the conventional spelling of Susann is more my way or the highway, and not as organized. So so Sharon worked with me on changing my name, and she actually chose this name for me. I was looking at your name, Charlotte, and you're go, go, go. You've got 2 speeds, 0 or 100, not much in between. And when you're down, right?
That's
You don't want to get up. You don't want to get up. People see you, you're good at taking charge. And it's like you feel very comfortable being in charge. It kind of makes you feel safe. Yeah, I got this. I'm in control. People remember you from your caring heart. You're generous, but sometimes it can work against you. Charlotte, can you help me with this project? Oh, sure, I'll do it. And then sometimes your own work doesn't get done because you're helping other people. Yes.
Oh boy, yeah.
You're very much about fairness. You don't like to see people not treated fairly, and it's easier for you to speak up for others than it can be to speak up for yourself sometimes when you're feeling not fairly treated. And you have what we call, how do we call it? Sometimes doing things the hard way, in that your name shows you'd be more religious than, more spiritual than religious, than a real Orthodox religion. But you want it, on one hand, let go and let God. On the other hand, well, should I take charge? So sometimes it's like, what do I do? Do I jump in, or do I let this divinely unfold? So it can feel like you got one foot on the gas, the other on the brake.
Well, that was a pretty good assessment there.
And you also have good hand-eye coordination, which would explain you being, I saw your name, oh, that's why she was like a professional golfer. Look at that coordination.
That's, wow.
And a bit of a homebody.
And I beg your pardon?
A bit of a homebody. You enjoy staying home.
Oh, wow. And that's more and more. And this is definitely, you're right on. It is. I have 2 speeds, pedal to the metal, and that's definitely the case. And so, yeah, that's interesting. So now, how long did it take you to go through that process of, say, for me or anybody?
It can take just a few minutes to look at a name. But when we do an analysis, we often look at the parents' names, the siblings' names, any nicknames the child has, or other names people call them. If they change your name for marriage or other circumstances. And it takes hours to look at a name in depth and how all the letters work together.
Right.
And you have a spouse.
Interesting. Yeah, well, I'll have to delve deeper into that. That's very interesting. You had mentioned earlier that before we got on here about your birth name on your birth certificate is your Is your contracted name, is
It's your contract with God. That's what you came here to work out.
Mhm. And, but you can, as you said, you can rearrange the letters like you did, changed your spelling a bit.
Yeah.
If you don't mind my asking, I know Suzanne, you've changed it. What was your name before Swan?
Monaberg. Nobody could spell it. No one
Oh,
could
wow.
pronounce it.
Mm-hmm.
And as a quirk, it seemed like the only people that didn't have trouble with my name were African American people with a high school education. They breezed right through it. Everybody else,
Wow, interesting. Well,
I
Suzanne
tired of it.
Swan is kind of a nice flowing name too.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, that's interesting. And I know that you are, I assume, still open for sessions on this. They can go to your website.
Yes,
Yeah.
I just
And
got
when
a
I
call today.
yeah, when I do post this, or it's already going live and it'll go out on YouTube and Facebook and on my website, but I'll make sure that I add to it your website so people, if they're interested, and can contact you for that. Well, I want to one thing that we really the start of the idea of this conversation, but I'm glad we've got to talk about all this too. You've written a book that's been in the making for more than a few years, and yes, 365 Divine Whispers. So you've published it just recently, but you've had this handwritten manuscript for many years. Tell us about your inspiration behind this and how it finally got published, and just whatever you want to share about it.
Yeah, handwritten. Um, I was attending a Unity church when I lived in the Chicago area, and Unity publishes the Daily Word, which is a little pamphlet with monthly slogans and scripture and guidance for the day. And I wondered if I could do something like that for myself. So every morning I would sit down and ask for the day's guidance. I didn't hear a voice in my head, but thoughts would come and I would write them down. I didn't quite know what to do with it. I would ask friends, when's your birthday? And have them read their page. And they often related, well, yeah, that fits me, that fits me. So I started to realize maybe it's not just for me. I kind of typed it up, and it was hard at the time before Kindle Direct Publishing came out from Amazon, where you can self-publish. There's not a cost to the author. It was tough to get some work published. The interesting weaving in this, Charlie, we talked about this earlier, that I had a friend at the Unity Church there when I moved to Arlington, Virginia, we kept in touch. And all these, since then, like 17 years in Arlington and years here, we talk on the phone a couple times a year. And he'd always ask me, not in a nasty manner, but hey, how's your book coming? What are you going to do with that? You got it ready yet? Every single year, every single phone call. So I dedicated the book to my mom and to my friend Jim Whitehead because he's the reason it got published. And the final push was I was telling a family member I was going to take a voice class, vocal development. And she said, oh, I couldn't catch me in that. And a couple weeks later, she admitted to me, she's only a few years younger than I. If I found a genie, in a bottle, it granted me 3 wishes, I wouldn't necessarily wish for a different body or $1,000,000. I'd wish to be able to sing. Some silly nun had told her in grade school, oh, don't be in chorus next year, and so she was so shut down to the point that in a gathering, if people are singing happy birthday, she won't even sing quietly in a group. And I thought, if you have this heart's desire to sing, if God put this desire in your heart, I would think it's in there somewhere, And even if you can't be a great singer, be good enough. And so I realized that's so, what abject terror, what deep fear that she has and she won't even follow her heart's desire. I'm not like that. And then I guess it was my intuition saying, what about your book? And I had some terror there, wrote it 20 years ago
Mm-hmm.
plus. So I decided I would push myself. I rented an Airbnb in Swan, far enough
Mm-hmm.
away that I couldn't drive home easily, and stayed there for a week and proofreaded my manuscript 3 times and consulted with my friend Jim. What do you think about this introduction? What do you think about this for a book cover picture and all of that? And I got it published February 26th last year, which is my friend Jim's birthday. It was good. That was my birthday gift to him.
Oh, wow.
Even though I thought, well, I'm hoping this will inspire my relative to, to overcome. I wanted to prove to her you can walk through the fear and terror and come out in one piece on the other side, but she wasn't impressed. It didn't move her, but I got a book out of it.
Hey, that's fantastic. And you said that you don't have children and this is your legacy.
Yeah, I wanted to leave something to the world to make it a better place. Is it a great book? Is it on the New York Times bestseller? No, I think I've sold about 100 copies. But I really believe if we have something to say, we should get it out there. And I do get feedback from people. Like my life was, some of my friends gave my book to their children for Christmas and stuff. And I get feedback from one of her daughters saying, I get in a downward spiral, and then I read your book and it uplifts me. And one
Hmm.
friend gave a book to her niece, and the niece said, I'm going to revisit how I'm running my life. And
Wow.
some people get stressed out and they crack it and it has the guidance. So
Yeah.
it encourages me enough. And I feel like, yeah, all the stuff I went through, and I look at it and say, this was a lot of work
Yeah.
out, but it makes it all worthwhile when someone says, oh, it really helps me.
Yeah, isn't that the truth? And it's, the fact is, it's not about numbers. It's just touching that one heart, and the ripple effect from that is huge. And, that's amazing. I'd like, if you don't mind, well, it is a daily devotional. That's how it's meant to be read, right?
Yes.
So, yeah. And so June 5th today, what's your message for today, if you don't mind sharing that with us?
I was looking at it earlier. It's about overtime. How hard, okay, and the book. I don't know where the information I received came from. Was it my higher self? Was it a spirit guide? Was it an angel? Was it God? I never said, hey, who are you? It was
Mhm.
always loving and supportive. So I didn't think it was evil or negative. Uh, so the I in me is to, I guess, a higher power, higher consciousness. Overtime, June 5th. How hard are you willing to work for what you want? Are you willing to work overtime? Earth wages are time and a half for overtime. Are you willing to work time and a half for what you want with no visible guarantee of reward? This is what faith and trust are about. These are the tokens of universal awareness. As you sustain faith and trust that your overtime will bear fruitful rewards, you are earning tokens which you can redeem from me. The only catch is that I will never tell you when I will cash them in for you. The greater your faith, the greater your trust, the more I will surprise you with the luck which others who do not seek tokens will call your circumstances. I will provide you with the abundance you seek in proportion to what you share with others. For it is then that the real flow of universal energy begins. Overtime does not mean exhausting yourself. It means consistent, conscious focusing of your energy toward an end product which will bless my creation. This world is your creation too. Don't let it suffer and wither from your lack of personal attention or inattention. Take care of yourself, take care of your world. Are you willing to work overtime? To persist in your life's efforts, to persist in your efforts always and always. This is why your commitment to your life's work is so important. Know why you're here. If this request confuses you, Choose something and act upon it. No one is too unimportant to have a mission in life. Be willing to seek and find yours. Overtime you put in will take care of itself over time. You are too valuable to me not to work overtime. I pay blessings and a half for a job well done. A main focus of the book is to get people to remember to connect with God in the morning, and through trusting God, our life's work will be supported
Mm-hmm.
when we go out in the world. So it's reminding us, stay on purpose with your life and trust God to guide you in what you need to do.
Yeah, and that's beautiful. Well, I loved what you said today too, because I think there's a little confusion with people, and they feel like I'm a when I'm in my passion, I love what I do, so it's not work. But it's energy and time consuming, but it's a labor of love. And so it doesn't seem like work. But I think that there's a line from A Course in Miracles, or a phrase, effortless accomplishment. And I
Oh,
think that when we're in that guidance space, and receiving that, then we're just able to create all kinds of things. So, and it sounds like that's what that chapter's about. So some days, you just could go from sun up to sundown following your passion, but ultimately it is about defining that or finding that. And then it's, to me, it is all about service to humanity and each other. But that was beautiful for today. Thank you for that. And this book is available on Amazon, right? So I don't know if I have the link to that, but if I don't, please email me that and I'll put that in but people could find it just as easily, though. It's Divine,
365 Divine Whispers.
yeah, 365 Divine Whispers, Susann Swan. So I'm sure you could just do a search on that. But in the meantime, I'll add that link to that as well. And I want to, before we wind down here, something you had said about finding your voice. And I just want to make a point, because it happens often, and I don't think it's even ill intention, but you've mentioned about the teacher or the nun saying, you can't sing, you don't have a voice. When we're in authority and we say something, be very mindful, be in that God mind of what you say, because it can definitely, stifle someone their entire life. And I think what we're here to do is to find our voice and have, the courage to do so. And for me, it's about finding that which enables us to support that. And you had mentioned that you had just found your voice for music not too long ago, and share a little bit about that.
I met Patricia Roskins at Namaste Center years ago. I guess it was 2019, after I
Mhm.
moved down here, and she invited me to join her Saluda chorus. And she said, even if the philosophy of that group, even if you don't think you have a good voice, or were told you shouldn't sing, you'll be singing next to people that can sing better than you, and you'll be uplifted. And it really helped build my confidence. But I learned my voice is second alto, borderline tenor range. So I
Mhm.
didn't get to sing the melody, and I found that to be a challenge. I saw a class listed 2 years ago, in Blue Ridge College, continuing ed for voice development, and the teacher is great. It's kind of a spiritual experience being there. She's a jazz singer, but she also feels called to help people find their voice. And
Mm.
she doesn't teach us how to sing as much as getting out of the way, getting our judgments out of the way, and letting our natural voice emerge.
Wow.
And just, I was telling, well, as we said earlier, I'm going down this path. I don't know where it's going to lead, but I love singing these torch songs.
Yeah.
And I was in Toastmasters for a couple of years, and so many people have a fear of public speaking, a terror in their hearts. Try singing solo in public. So being
Right.
able to do that gives you a confidence that's just amazing. And because so many people are intimidated at the thought of it, they think your voice is great even if it's more average. But I went to a lecture on it was on Dances with Wolves movie. That's how long ago it was when I lived at the Carl Jung Center in Evanston, Illinois. And they
Mm,
had a Lutheran minister, Fred Gustafson, that spoke about the movie, and he was very uh, interested in the Native American cultures. And he said, I met Indians who have been Christianized, but I, as a Christian, have not been Indianized living on this Indian land. So he went to, I guess he hung out with the Lakotas, went to Sundance ceremonies and all of that. And he said, in their culture, everybody sings and dances. No one is told that they can't. They're just expected to.
yeah,
That in our culture, I feel sad that so many people are shut down and they don't let that out.
I agree. I agree. Well, I love that. Now tell me, what did you say? You lived at the Young Center?
I no, I didn't. I went to a lecture there.
Oh, I thought you said you lived there. I was
No,
gonna
I
say,
went.
wow.
Sorry, I didn't
Yeah,
say that.
yeah, that's well, that's interesting. But yeah, it's we just gotta be fearless and go out and just shine our light and doesn't matter what other people think, but really we're our worst critics, I believe too. Yeah.
I had intuitive guidance this year. I have a new slogan for myself and everybody else I'm going to interact with. It just says "Live big." You know, we
Yeah.
have tiny little lives. We're afraid to try something new, afraid to let our light shine. You know.
Yeah, amen to that. I live big. So everybody out there, that's our motto for the week or for the life. Live big. Well, Suzanne, it's been wonderful to spend this time with you. And is there anything else that we might have missed that you'd like to share with the group before we wind down here?
Oh, I'll think of it after we end the call. I've enjoyed spending time in your living room, or your home is lovely.
Oh, well, thank you. Yes, this is where you'll see me every Sunday and every Wednesday and lots in between. And anyway, it's been a pleasure and all the best to you. And you are a light in the world and keep on shining and live big. And we'll all be blessed by that with all these gifts that you're sharing with us. And just a reminder, I'll post all of this on Facebook and on YouTube's of how to get her book, and also if you're interested in a namology session. And thank you for doing that for me. It was very interesting.
You
And
also have self-confidence. You were born with it. It serves you throughout your life.
oh, that's interesting, yeah, it is interesting. And I could go into a story about that, but I won't. But yeah, it's yes, interesting. But anyway, thanks everybody for tuning in. Feel free to pass this along to your friends. Susan, thanks again. And everybody, we're off next week. I'll be out of town, but in 2 weeks, look forward to seeing you again. Many blessings and namaste, everybody.